was on the other restream screen for about a minute or two, but I'm on the event screen now, so really appreciate it. Chat's wide open. Kelle and Harvey are scheduled today, and they're getting a little tied up, so they'll be joining us as soon as they can. In the meantime, we're all about live stream strategy today, and it's getting to be such a significant opportunity for people to get their true voice out there, to be heard and seen in real time with real people, having real conversations that have relevance and potential for bigger and better things. And who comes here but Dean LeBay? I like that new picture, and naturally the potato. It's been a bit, but I consider Dean a really good friend of the show and a friend of mine, and I'm always thinking good thoughts for him and his family. So great to have you, Dean. Dean started, well, I'd say about, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 months ago. And I think Dean has seen the value of live streaming and, how much it can do to make connections, build relationships, create opportunities, and strategic partnerships. So thank you again, Dean. Anybody else in the audience that would love to identify who they are, where they're at, and any questions would be greatly appreciated. So with that said, moving into the live stream strategy area, Dean comes back, absolutely. Nothing like friendships. And here we have Harvey. Harvey was just a minute or two away. Thank you, Harvey. You came in at the perfect time because here's what happened. I started the show on regular restream, and within like a minute, I figured out I needed to be on the event restream, which is the next screen over. So I discontinued that and started this, and it was only like a minute into it. So what was cool is I was smart enough to close the old one off, or I'd be fidgeting here forever. And then while, everybody was waiting in anticipation of you and Kelle, Dean came here, introduced himself, and I haven't seen Dean in a long time.
No, hey Dean, how are you?
Yeah,
where's the potato thing though?
Yeah, isn't it? Well, it just reminds me.
Oh, it's YouTube. That's why.
Why. Okay, gotcha. See, YouTube. No wonder, Dean, you were way ahead of the curve today. And I know we've got about 10 people watching, so don't be shy. Actually, me and Harvey have the time to really dedicate to any questions, any comments that might relate to LinkedIn or live streaming. It's easier to kind of see what's going on when you're driving the car. And I can only tell you that live streaming and LinkedIn is definitely the combination everybody should start focusing on if they're really serious about being serious about something. If you want to make a major impact, if you want to skip the line, that's a funny thing too, is live streaming, especially with LinkedIn, is like having the VIP pass. Is you get through so much faster, you get with the A-listers, you get closer to the stage, and eventually possibly you have a stage. And that's what me and Harvey and Kelle have been really focused on, is not just how do we build our opportunity out, but how do we share our opportunity with others on how we do it so that we can have a bigger impact on a bigger stage. So Harvey, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's always great to see Harvey. Harvey has the franchise show on Tuesdays, and it follows this show. The speakers are phenomenal. I've had the opportunity of talking with a few. Actually, Ford was on for the first time Friday and really knocked it out of the park. He loved being connected with Cohen on that show. And what I'm realizing now is once you have a big enough selection or array of talent. The key then is matching talent, not getting new talent, but working the talent you have. And it kind of like a booking agent, right? If you were a booking agent for Taylor Swift or some famous person, you'd be looking for the right spots with the right people to continue to create more opportunity. And, you know, what me and Harvey have been talking about, especially just lately, is small, easy programs someone can enter into and get their feet wet, get comfortable, and then make a bigger decision as to their commitment of future time versus, you know, thinking about something before you have all the facts and figures in order to make a quality decision. And, you know, we're talking to the choir in a way because everybody here is watching this or participating or will watch this. And that just shows there's an interest in what we're doing and how we're doing it. And I think some people don't know it's for them because they never thought of it. You know, that's another thing I thought. Some people in the audience aren't like, well, I'm waiting for my chance. It's like, I never thought of live streaming. I never thought of getting in front of a camera. But, you know, once someone says, why don't you think about it in relationship to getting to where you want to go faster, exchanging what you're doing now for a more efficient model, but more importantly, getting around a group of people who are going to really do everything they can to get you there, right? This isn't like sell it, buy it, good luck when you get it home. Right? This is like an invitation to the collaboration group, the show, individual personalized strategy. You know, like one shop fits all or one size fits all. So Harvey, you've been intimately involved in a lot of these discussions that we've been having. How do you see this from an audience perspective?
I think so. I mean, you know, live streaming, as we've said every week, is just the best way to engage with an audience. You know, and with my show on the franchise show, when I've spoken to people who've been in the audience from their perspective, I've asked them of their experience in the audience, and because it's a show that's driven by them and for them, it gives complete value to them. It can't help but do that because, and a lot of people, when they think about a LinkedIn Live, they think it's like a podcast and they think they've got to have a great big list of questions and they think it's got to be edited and it's got to be this and it's got to be that. But if you just let a conversation flow and you listen to people and you listen to your audience, the conversation just naturally appeals. You know, I'm often asked, because we just have a topic on the show, and the conversation can go any way, and it can go as deep or as shallow as you want it to go. If you've got an audience that's not quite as experienced as another audience, right, the questions will be of a level that appeals to them. The conversation will appeal to them because you're listening to the audience and you're bringing them in and recognizing them. If it's an audience of absolute experts and they really want to get into a deep delve into a subject, they'll do exactly that. They're asked that, and that's where the conversation will go. So I think from an audience perspective, the engagement levels from a LinkedIn Live are second to none. You know, and you can't get that from a post. You can't get that from even a podcast. You know, if I've tried by putting out snippets of the show, you know, later on, and as much as it's a great reminder that it's there, that doesn't give you the engagement, because the engagement is about it being live and people commenting and seeing their comment. You know, I've been in the audience of this on many an occasion, and when you make a comment and your comment comes up on screen, how do you feel? You feel good. You feel like you're making you know, an impact, especially if you are here because you're thinking about creating your own LinkedIn Live stream in your own LinkedIn Live show, of which you should do. And there's a lovely ticker going across the bottom right now that's going to tell you how exactly to do that. But if you've come here to do that, then using LinkedIn Live and using a live stream is just absolutely the way to do it. Don mentioned earlier that it helps you build relationships quicker. And it does. It really does. I'm using it to build relationships in my industry. And the conversations that I've had, thanks to having a LinkedIn Live show, I would have never had those conversations. I would have never found a way to get that engaged and connected with my industry. So it doesn't matter what your industry is. If you want to connect and engage with it, this is the only way you can do it. If I'd sent emails to these people, they wouldn't know who I was or what I was about. But every week they can join me on a show. They can join in with that show. They can have true engagement with it. They get to know me. I get to know them. The people that are in the audience, I get to know them. And when you do something like this, especially when it's live, you really do put it out there who you are. And the more you do, you can't hide it over a number of weeks or months. So if people want to get to know you because they want to do business with you, it's the perfect way to just let people watch it if they want to. They can dip in and out. They don't have to comment. It's the most underutilized tool we have, certainly on LinkedIn, but I think in modern business. So I think that's where I'll start.
I agree with everything you just said and more. And the reason I say that is I know Harvey, just like myself, are talking from real live experience. We're not talking about from philosophy or what we believe is going to happen. It's what's already happening to us. And all you have to do is know how to operate the machinery, not be the machine. Right? So the key is, and I'm seeing how even content, because everything shifts on the show based on the shift in thought and direction. And that's the way it should be, right? You put your windshield wipers on when it's raining, right? You adjust to your atmosphere and your environment. And even this conversation, the content here today will not be teaching, but sharing. Most content, most live streams, and that's another benefit of doing it right, knowing how to do it, who to do it with, why to do it, who to invite. You could save yourself, and we're seeing that in real time with Carl coming in at a compressed time frame and an accelerated success rate, and more importantly, happiness and satisfaction and belief in the future that Carl was starting to question, right? If this is all there is, hey, I'm happy, but I'm capable of more. I think sometimes I deserve more, but I'm waiting on people either to let me in or to meet me. The other big key to what Harvey said is live streaming, especially on LinkedIn, is the only way to continue a sustainable relationship, right? Let's break it down. You like something. Someone comments back to you thanking you for the like, right? That's the low as it can go. And then from the comment, you re-comment, right? Well, thank you for thanking me. And then from there, you might gravitate to a Zoom, which is let's have a real call, see each other, talk to each other. That's where sustainability stops, because you can't have another Zoom next week. You can have a Zoom in 6 months or a year to catch up, but if you didn't do anything the first time around, what's the catch up going to do, except now you're not feeling you're imposing, right? You would Zoom every day with somebody if they didn't mind and they kept taking a Zoom, but that's not going to happen. But with a show, you let someone walk into your show, right? And any visitor to anybody's anything, warehouse, store, office, feels, first of all, like a guest, which they should, but also like a guest, which means I'll respect the rules around here and I'll do whatever the protocol is, right? once people get to see and work with you, because what was interesting about Ford's show with Cohen is they were really well matched, and you could see how there was a time where even Ford was saying, I know you're the host, but I'd like to keep this going. I said, you're doing a better job than I could be doing, right? So you should be doing it. And I think when people hear that, they understand, they come into something without a person's ego, defensiveness. Because if you're going to be authentic, say what everybody else sees anyways, right? Hey, this person really should get the spotlight. And I'm just a person who booked everybody, made the platform happen. It's kind of like a debate in a good way. And time doesn't wait for anybody, and no one should wait on time. And whatever's going to happen will happen. Whatever you do to make it happen is one more opportunity to have something going on while you're waiting for something to go on. That's why you're not focused on what isn't going on, because you did your stuff and now you're waiting. Well, do more stuff, but do it in front of an audience who is already progressive enough to know even the information from here, even the connections from here are worth the hour of time, versus create a big article that no one's going to see, no one's going to care about. A few friends and family may hit the like and comment just to say, glad you're alive, and that's about it. But if you want to get from one place to another, speed helps, and a team helps. So if you can combine speed with team, and the other thing I'll say, and me and Harvey and Kelle hundreds of times, 700 times, we're who we are after 700 times. We haven't been making up an act all this time just to spring something on somebody. And we're generous because of that. So even when people choose to work with us, not just watch us, we're going to make it right, right? We're going to make it right. And whatever that means, no one gets hurt as long as everybody tries. And that's the key. So what we're really looking for people to join, because we got more to offer than we can use. We've got all this value that no matter what we say here, it really doesn't connect until you get to the collaboration group and until you get your own show. And then you're in the game, right? You got to get your equipment right. You got to get your rules straight. And then you got to get on the field. But wouldn't you love to join a winning team? A team that's already knocking it out of the park? I did see one show this weekend that I was very impressed with. And it was the Yogi Berra documentary on Netflix. And here's a guy who had 18 years of playing baseball with just one team, the Yankees. He won 10 championship rings in that time, won 3 more as a manager or coach, and it's told by his granddaughter. And he was 5'7", didn't look like anything. He enlisted in the Navy and was participating in the Normandy invasion, and he got hit. And the next year he ended up in the major leagues, and everybody wrote him off. His first bat was a home run. And one last factoid, because I don't want to ruin the show if you choose to watch it. He was the MVP of the league, and in that year he had 35 home runs and only 12 strikeouts. And that's quite a job. So anyways, we got the group coming together. Carl's here. Carl does his show tomorrow, an hour before this show, 10 a.m. Mountain Time. It's an instant funding event or show. I get it mixed up because Carl has his show every other Wednesday, and it's the successful funding event. But what's more important about whether it's franchising or funding or women's empowerment, it's the medium. because it transfers to everywhere, anywhere. You don't have to get deep in something. You can get wide once you get smart and good. And wouldn't everybody want to get smarter and not gooder, but better? Uh, I would hope. Leslie's here. I was able to catch her show, Mind Over Matter. Had a nice crowd today, always does. Is starting a new 12-week program from what I heard on the show. Uh, Leslie's here again. Oh, Leslie, because I was just saying Yogi Berra, who was played for the Yankees from 19. He was with Joe DiMaggio and he ended with Mickey Mantle. So he bridged both of those eras. Great documentary on Netflix. It's only about an hour and 20 minutes, but it's really more about the family and how he interacted with people, lived to be 90. Leslie says, my grandson is playing second base JV in his high school this spring. Well, that's great. You know, I found sports can go so far in building character, showing how to be a team player, how to be competitive in a good way. And, you know, the more I got my kids into sports, the less time they had to get into anything else, you know. And I think the other good thing about sports is there's more of a interest in taking care of your body, right? If you're into performance and sports. So I think, you know, they have better habits typically. Leslie's right. Joe DiMaggio married Marilyn Monroe. Yeah, she married a lot of interesting guys, you know, along the way. And she only lived to be 36. So she wasn't around that long. And she also married that great Henry Miller, I think it was. He was a great playwright. So, you know, tragic story, but beautiful person. Getting back to our live stream strategy focus, you know, it is going to be now more towards what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we're doing it, and how people can get involved with us in doing it, because time is of the essence. And we really just want to go to work with people who want to go to work. You know, that people already have determined, hey, I got to make a change. I can't keep doing what I'm doing the way I'm doing it forever, you know, and why not be able to pivot? And the other thing about what me and Harvey and Kelle are doing is we're happy to have an interview, right? It's not to go to the website and hit a button. That's never happened yet anyways. It's go to the website, see what's available. And then if it sounds interesting and you want more information, there's also a area to schedule a call, a calendar already there. So you can see what's there, decide if you want to talk, or comment here. Fine. That all works great. So Harvey, you know, from the time you started to where you are, what were the biggest lessons you were able to learn as takeaways?
Oh my goodness, a lot. Where do you start? I mean, it gets me on to the fact that throughout all of that, there are a series of best practices of which anybody here today can jump ahead of all of the learnings and the mistakes that we have made, to jump ahead of that curve and start from the point where we're at now, which would be an amazing thing to do when you're at the beginning. But in answer to your question, I mean, my goodness, when I did my first show, I couldn't make it go live. I created it in LinkedIn rather than Restream. It just kept saying event ended. You know, there's a way you create it. You know, my show became the top franchising event on LinkedIn after 8 weeks and has remained at the top ever since. So it's been at the top for the last 3 months and it continues to be there. And that's through engaging best practice, a show that engages an audience as well. There is no point in, you've created your show, you found your audience, and then if you just do it like a podcast and you don't recognize people that are there and you don't bring them in, because you might as well do a podcast. I mean, you mentioned there about articles, newsletters, posts, polls, those sorts of things. They're all great tools, right? But they're tools to support a LinkedIn Live.
Mm-hmm.
You do an article, you might spend a day writing an article. You might even spend a couple of hours, even if you use AI to write an article, but you will spend time writing an article. And like you say, Don, is someone going to appreciate it and engage with it? They might appreciate it. They might put a like on it. They might even, at a stretch, put a comment saying, great article. Did they read it? Probably not. Do they care about it? Probably not. And even if you get the best result you can, which is a like and a comment, like you say, this is about continuous engagement, right? Actually doing business with somebody in a way that's appealing to them because they can get to know you before that, right? But even if you got the best out of an article, which is a like and a comment, and even if you commented back, that's it. It doesn't go any further than that. So use your articles, your newsletters, your posts and your polls, but use them to remind people about what you're doing, the engaging platform, which is the LinkedIn Live. I liked what you said about, because you can have the best practices. You could watch this show every week. You could come here every week for the next year and watch it, but you still might not ever launch a show. And the reason is because it's a bit like a book. Everyone can buy a book. I mean, the lovely Leslie is here and she teaches a wonderful course on Think and Grow Rich. Now, anyone could go out and buy that book. Anyone can. And 100 million copies are sold or whatever it was. But it doesn't mean to say there's 100 million millionaires because of it. And the reason is people aren't truly applying those great practices, right? So you could come here each week, you could watch this. But like Don said, it's getting involved beyond this as to really how to do it. And the other thing is, you won't learn anything until you take that first step.
Mm-hmm.
I can speak from experience that I spent months with a pen and paper, spider diagrams, thinking who would my audience be? Who might my guests be? How would I attract those guests to it? What questions would I ask? Would the audience like it? Would I mess up? How do I do it? All of these questions. Everybody has them. Everybody has these fears. But it's only when you do it and you take that step of doing it that you can really start to understand what all of these best practices mean. You have to have a show or a concept in order to apply this stuff to. Otherwise, it's just words. But another thing that I wanted to say is it's about giving. You said about when Ford said that he'd like to continue doing it, and you said, well, you're doing a great job here, continue. I'm absolutely the same way. Part of the reason I have the franchise show is to add value to a community and to get engaging questions and thought-provoking things for people to think about. It's not necessarily about answering those questions. It's about generating inspiring thought. And I think that a LinkedIn Live can give someone a voice who wouldn't normally have a voice. And I mean, I think about it. I speak to lots of people that have retired or maybe taken early retirement, but have so much knowledge, information, best practices about their own industry. And they're doing gardening or playing golf. Not that there's anything wrong with either of those things, but they could have a platform to give that knowledge to people and for people to find true value from all of that experience. And anyone can do it. This doesn't take, as long as you know the right way of doing it, then people can go out there, take an industry and become an influence within that industry, and somewhere to go for people to have conversations. You have to get past the fact you don't have to be the best in your industry. You have to just bring up and inspire the best of your industry, and if you can engage with, have guests and in the audience, people who are real gems in your industry that have unique talents and experiences, and just lift them up and let them shine, then that's all you've got to do. As a host of a show, you don't have to be that expert. In fact, I think I'd go as far as saying it's better if you're not. You know, I never want to walk into the room and be the cleverest guy there. You know, I always want to stay curious, because it makes you more insightful. If you don't know, you want to know. So you ask the questions and listen. So I think that's I think what I'm going to say on this round.
Well, you said quite a bit, and I think it was all worth saying, and hopefully everybody listened to it. But what it brought thought and question to my mind is, you're right. You have to go towards something. And without telling people how to take advantage of it, and just tell people what it is and what it's doing for you, doesn't get people moving in the direction fast enough, or understanding you've got open arms to bring them in. What was so interesting about what Harvey just said also was that when really quality people come on your show, and when I say, you know, Ford, by his own admission, he gets 25,000 a speech. And he wasn't bragging, because he knows a lot of friends who get 125,000 a speech. But what that really satisfied a lot of people is, hey, this person's playing on a big stage with big dollars, and probably big value in return for those dollars. So you have to be thoughtful of Ford to create this persona and this value add. And he's a strict professional at every level. I'm pretty good after 700 shows of qualifying or relating, hey, this has got the whole package, you know? And he loved the show, and he wants to come back, invited me on his show. And what it showed is not me. He didn't get to know me that well, even though he got to interchange and participate. He measured the show against all the other shows he's been going on. And those people who don't have best practices, who are talking about themselves and having a party with everybody who's just willing to make a comment, versus, hey, serious people want to be with serious people on a serious platform, because they've got a certain expectation. Like, those people are staying at Four Seasons hotels. They're not looking for Holiday Inns unless it's a storm and it's better than sleeping outside. So when you appeal to the best by being the best at what you do, not competing with one, you'll never do it. But you can get that slice that says, hey, I'm going to bring you on. I'm going to give you the best practices that I've learned to make this a quality, comfortable show for you. And then I'm going to match you with somebody who's going to make you think, right? And make you respond in a way you didn't plan or couldn't plan. And, great people like spontaneity. Great people don't talk off of speeches. They talk with their heart. They feel the energy of the crowd, and they build that energy. And I think that's what me and Kelle and Harvey and a few other people, Carl's learning that too, is you got a big boat that you've been riding, and you look around, you got 50 more seats that nobody's in, right? And it's the same boat, the same cost, the same work. Why not on board? And this isn't our opportunity anyways. It's LinkedIn. We don't represent, they cover everything. All we do is say, here, it's like a boat. Here's the dock. We got the bridge. Let us get you comfortable. And what's funny is then all the boats start hanging out together. Here we go. Leslie's a Napoleon Hill person for sure. Fridays, watch her show. Became the 20th century greatest reporter on success by interviewing successful people. He was 20 years old and a cub reporter when he began. And what's interesting about Napoleon is he saw the vision of what a success strategy could do. He was hired by Andrew Carnegie to create that success strategy, and it worked. And not only did it work for the people that he worked with, but it worked for masses, like 100 million people have read the book. But that's almost 200 years ago or 100 years ago. Now, if Napoleon was here today and you could say, hey, Napoleon, would you like a live stream that you could talk to the world by sitting in your easy chair, and you could connect with all the people you've already connected, put them at the stage at one time, put Henry Ford with Harry Firestone, I think, Henry Firestone, Thomas Edison. I mean, he created a collaboration group, and actually Napoleon Hill had his own group, and Leslie could talk about it maybe Friday, is where he would bring in Abraham Lincoln, all these dead people, Alexander the Great. And in his mind, he'd put them all around the table, and he'd ask Alexander the Great, in Alexander the Great's time and mind, what would you do? Right? And he'd have a collection of people that represented a thought, an action coming together. And that's where collaboration, and this brings collaborators together. Brings people like Bob Berg with maybe Henry one day. And, at a certain point, you say, who do you want to meet? And that's easy. Tell me who. It's like a matchmaker. Who do you want to go out with this week? Well, I can't guarantee I'll get you that name, but I'll get you that person. So, if you want somebody in this industry or that industry, Carl comes back with, when speaking from the heart, no script is needed. Well, at a certain point, you might start with a script, but you're going to end with your heart, because they're going to have to get to know you as you and you as them. So why not start at the beginning and get comfortable? And, if people aren't comfortable with your comfortability, they're not the right person. Qualify fast, qualify early is the whole thing. In or out. No waiting around here. And if you had a line, make a decision or come back when you have a decision. But you have to drive things. And now that's where I see the show and content, because giving content without what's your next step is leaving people to dock, and people who want to reach out and talk to people should. Well, here we got is Penny. And actually, me and Penny have a call later today. So happy Penny's here. I know Penny's been working with Harvey, being on his show. And I know she's got a fabulous franchising manual book that Harvey will be kind enough to display. And, when someone's with Harvey, someone's with me, and vice versa. So we're kind of teaming up and doing as much value-added service as we can provide. And, I give Penny credit, because just for making a comment, just for making herself known, just like Beverly, who I didn't go into full promotion mode onto Beverly's Tuesday show, Women of Empowerment, especially over 50. Tomorrow we have a special guest, Elle Banks, nice, wonderful lady who actually Kathleen Quinn recommended. And, it's another thing. We're open to referrals. We're open to people you think would be great guests. So, the idea is keep the word out there. If you know somebody who's looking for a live stream opportunity or wants to learn, please send them forward. But thank you, Beverly. Penny says, hi, Don. Good to see you. Apologies for my late arrival. Never too late. You're always welcome, even if it's the last minute. Brilliant. Thank you both so much. And I think we've adopted that style of respect, of recognition. Actually working with us creates almost an instant sponsorship, because everybody I'm working with, I talk about their show on every show, whether it's Carl, whether it's Kelly's Awesome Journey with Christy Howard. And the reason is, you should see a lot of shows. You should experience a lot of people, and then know that we decided to come together as a team collectively. And that's another benefit, is everybody should work with whoever they're feeling most comfortable with, enjoy working with. And, by giving more options, it just shows you that it's really more about you to start with, because we know deep in our heart that once you get into this, and especially if you were hesitant or confused or didn't think you could do it, and you surprise yourself on the upside so much, pretty soon it's like, where do I get more of this? When's my next show? And I think that's been something that's been interesting. And what comes to mind is 20 people who appeared on here for the first time now have their own shows. I was so blessed to be with Leslie for so many shows, learned her techniques. I shared my techniques, and I can go into detail about Dina Lefkowitz and Melissa Cohen and Leslie Nydick, and just on and on and on. Looking forward to tomorrow. All women, we all have something to say, and this should be told. Absolutely. There's so many people who have been muffled, have been disenfranchised, have been put off to the side. And now they don't need anybody to walk on the stage with their own microphone and take as much time with whoever they want to be here. I mean, we decided an hour. I remember talking to people. I've never done more than 20 minutes. I couldn't do an hour. Well, obviously 20 minutes felt like an hour when you did it for 20 minutes on how you did it, right? And here everybody looks at the clock and says, geez, how did this fly by an hour? And I think there's where that excitement, that energy, and if you don't have that, I was watching a video the other day, and I'm always watching YouTube videos and how to do this, how to do that on LinkedIn or live streaming. And the person said, if you're not excited on the show, how do you expect your audience to get excited? Right? If you come on like a wet noodle, after a while, that's not impressive. And the three things you can accomplish with a live stream, including all three together, is inspiration, education, and entertainment. And if you have a little entertainment, a little inspiration, a little education, you mix it up, it's kind of like being a bartender, right? You put together what people want, you mix it up, you serve it in a really quality way, and a lot of times people will appreciate it. Beverly says, so sorry, time flies so fast. You guys are a light in the day. See you tomorrow. Absolutely see you tomorrow, Beverly, and I hope everybody else comes to watch us too. And Beverly has her podcast. Beverly has her live stream, and she's continually innovating. And, we have our every other Thursday collaboration group. And it's amazing how the knowledge share is starting to accelerate, because you know why? More people are doing it. If it's just me, Harvey, and Kelle, it's me, Harvey, and Kelle talking to people who know what we're talking about because we've done it. But Carl's live stream has brought new insights into areas I wouldn't have had. Con just finished his second show. He's got two more planned for the next 2 Fridays, and he's promoting his book, all about engagement. And actually, there's a sale this week. I think it's $297 for the Kindle or the audio. So he's really reduced the price to as low as he could, he said, because he wants to get more out there and wants to get more feedback. So, it's great to see what Carl's doing, what Harvey's doing, because I'd like to know more about what a book is. And actually, I reached out over the weekend, because you start playing the match game. You ever play that card game where you put 52 cards down and you start picking them up and matching them? So you get 2 8s, you put it off to the side until you're down to like 2 cards and you know what they are. Is I was talking to the bipolar general or exchanging emails, Greg Abbott. Got a fabulous best-selling book on Amazon. They're making a movie with him on stuff. He's everywhere. And he loved to come back. And he was saying, well, what subjects would we be talking about? And I said, well, it could either be publishing a book and promoting it, or military transition to civilian. And he loved both of them. So what occurred to me is, well, then Con should get together, because Con's just launching his book. And now they have something more direct that's related to their core initiative, which then means coming on this show is more than exposure. It's really learning from somebody. And, I found in the majority of cases, maybe 70, 80% of the cases, people who meet on here as speakers leave here with something as a Zoom call or something else, or connection, or I know something. I know Carl met with a gentleman who is here, Pat, an attorney who's in Colorado. They went to lunch and they already had ideas of referrals they could send because Carl does the financing. Uh, I forget his name again, but he does the lawyering, right? And there's a connection there. So eventually your value goes up with the value you could provide. And I think in this case, you have to kind of give people that first taste for, before you can really give them the whole picture, because it's too much to digest. And if you know the answer, you don't mind waiting for the time for everybody to see it for themselves. People are forcing things on people. It's based on their agenda or their calendar, not the person. And really, I think by being authentic and being honest in that, let's say, first qualifying conversation, is tell us what you need to get done. We'll put together a simple plan to do it. And then would that satisfy your concern? And maybe focus on the opportunity instead of the risk. Pat Linden, Carl's really fast. Pat, no lunch yet. He has the flu. Okay, well, better to know that beforehand. I love that people are in motion, and then how do you take them and elevate them to the next level? And then how do they take you and elevate you to the next level? So it's like one hand pulls somebody up, the other hand brings somebody else up, and we're all elevating together. So Harvey, I think this is a different approach to it, because it's all moving towards guest on a show, host a show.
Yeah. Excuse me. See, it's live. Could have edited that out, but we can't. Yeah, I completely agree. I think getting that first taste, I think back to the first time I was a guest on this, and it feels like worlds away, but you need that. You need someone to hold your hand on that first time, because pretty much every guest that I have on the franchise show is terrified of the fact that it's live, that there's no script, that they don't know what questions they're going to be asked. But they shouldn't be. They should embrace it, because like Carl said earlier, that if there's no script, then you're speaking from the heart. And I think I also want to say about how much, when I first watched this, so when I was this is before I was a guest, when I was in the audience and before I was even commenting on this show, I watched it, and what I loved about it was I loved the rhythm of it. And I've often said to you, Don, about that. The rhythm of this show, and hopefully my show, because I learned my trade here. but the rhythm is that it's calm, it's inquisitive, curious. It involves the audience. There's a pause in the conversation. You made a comment when you look at other LinkedIn Lives, or obviously certainly podcasts, you can get a LinkedIn Live where it's an engaging conversation between two people, and then 400 people saying hello to each other, right? Completely separate to the conversation that's on screen. Why are they separate? They're separate because they're not being involved. They're not being brought in. They're not being lifted up. They're in the end, they're coming there to say hello to the other people that are there because they might be their friends. But that's not utilizing the true engagement of a LinkedIn Live. If you stop the conversation and go, let's recognize who we've got here. And then not only recognize them, put them on the screen, lift them up, promote them, like you say, endorse them, and let that lead the conversation. Then when the comment they've made is on the screen and you've spoken about them, where is their engagement then? It's right with the show. It's right with the conversation, because they are the conversation. It's no different to the two people on the screen. So I think it's really important to remember that it's not a show with two people and an audience. Everyone's together, everyone's learning together. And I think if you have that in your mind, and if you have an inquisitive nature, and if you're curious, then it can be a really interesting conversation. I think you said about the fact that someone said, how can you talk for an hour? 20 minutes would be enough. Well, I think it's key that you have at least one other person when you're doing this, right? Maybe two. It's good with two, but at least one other person, because especially at the early stages. Because if it's just you, it's just you, and you've got to fill that air with talking. But if you've got somebody else there, you've got somebody to react, somebody to talk to, because it's possible at the beginning, unless you use best practices of which you can be taught by the lovely course and the lovely Don here and the team. Unless you do that, it's very likely that your first show will be very hard. There might not be anybody there. You'll have technical glitches, but you can make it easier. You can make it less painful than that. It doesn't have to be like that. I think, again, the script part of it, and I talk to lots of people who are guests to try and make them feel more at ease. But if you had a script, if this was scripted, all you're thinking about is remembering what the question was or what the answer is going to be. That's what will make you nervous. By not having a script, it doesn't matter. You've got nothing to remember. You don't need to worry about anything then. Just have a chat. And I think you made a comment that I picked up on earlier about if you do it right and you grow it in the right way. And as I say, I've grown, thanks to doing it the right way and learning together, grown the franchise show to being that top franchising event on LinkedIn. And then it's not about, hopefully I'll get a guest for next week. You look at your industry, you look at all of the people in your industry, and you go, well, who do you want to bring to the table and lift up and have that conversation with? And you can pick and choose then as to who you're engaging with. You could never do that without an engaging LinkedIn Live and doing it, in the right way. And I think I was also going to say about just getting that taste as well. So if you come onto this program and then you get to do a LinkedIn Live with Don and you get used to how that feels, the transition between that and being on the other side and doing your own, especially if you have Don as your first guest, who I did, it then feels very similar, except for you're clicking a few more buttons. And you can just do it the right way that makes it a less traumatic experience and a very enjoyable experience. As I say, I love doing them now. They feel very natural. You're just having a nice conversation with people. So, yeah, I think it's important to make sure you do things in the right way, in the right order, and utilize the learnings that we've had. I mean, I keep learning. I'm experimenting at the moment by looking at inviting people by email as well, the regular people, because that way you've got one great big email list. You don't have to separately invite people each week, and you don't use up all your invitations. The other learning that I've had, and I keep forgetting to do this, but I'm certainly going to do it on my show next week. When you do a LinkedIn Live and you press end on the show, it ends it from the perspective of the people watching. It cuts off before you finish talking. So what I'm going to experiment with doing is by pressing end a little bit after we finish talking, so that actually from the perspective of the people listening, it goes right away to the end and they hear it right to the end. So, you just keep picking up these little things each week. And when you add it all together, and all of us have tried doing our LinkedIn Lives in different ways to find that path. It's such a big task. If you sat down there in your industry and went with a blank piece of paper and go, right, I want to do a LinkedIn Live show. Where do you start? There's just so much. But if you know how to do it and you've done it more importantly. If you've done it, made the mistakes, improved it, and got to a point where it works, then it's much easier to learn by that than try and spend 2 years doing it yourself. Also, we're unfortunately, we're conditioned that if we screw it up and we mess it up, that we're likely to go, oh, it didn't go very well. I think I'll just leave that. We'll go back to doing something that we feel safe and comfortable with, right? When we talk about making an impact on LinkedIn, and I've said this before, but it's still worth saying. There's 1 billion people on LinkedIn. How do you make a noise? Well, you get to a niche, you find your industry. And why do you think that there are only 400 franchising events on LinkedIn? They're incredible ways to engage with a community, but there's only 400 and probably only 6 doing it right, because people have all of those fears. They have all of these decisions they have to make. They have all the mistakes they make, and they're either judging themselves or they got somebody else judging them as to whether that's successful. And they don't give it enough time. They don't do it in the right way. So there's not an industry out there that couldn't have a successful live streaming show if you do it the right way. If you look at that website down there and speak to Don, you can. I'm living proof of the fact that you can go from being terrified of being on a live stream to having an incredibly successful industry-specific show that's been nominated for awards and is the top LinkedIn event. I'm not boasting. It's just a fact that you can go from one thing to another thing and have great successes in engaging with a community. That's the success, engaging and really enjoying lifting others up in your own community, allowing those people to have a voice and just utilizing something that we get given on LinkedIn for free. We don't, we're all on LinkedIn anyway. If we're here and we're looking at this, we're on LinkedIn. It's just a tool that you can use, and it's the most underused and the most powerful tool on LinkedIn.
Well, you make a great point, many great points. What really I'm starting to fully appreciate is, again, you forget where you were when you started live streaming. And I remember when I heard about it, I decided to play with it. So I got a free Restream account. I did something for a minute or two. I recorded something. But there was so much to it that I didn't know. It was overwhelming. It wasn't just a post is easy. Type, hit submit, and you post it. Liking, commenting, simple. Boom, boom, bang. Connecting, just a quick interchange. Well, live streaming is, you don't know what you don't know. And because of that, it seems so formidable. And that's because there's so much opportunity, because there's so much to learn, and there's an entry fence that most people can't climb. So if you can get over the fence, there's a lot of people who won't, for one thing. Second thing is, if you can get in and someone can tell you the why, not just the how. The what. The what everybody gets. Oh, live streaming. Yeah, I've seen it. I know what it is. How do you do it? Then why do you do it? But then how do you do it at a championship level to start with? How do you decide good isn't good enough? People are wanting more value. Tell the same jokes forever, see how many people come to your show, right? If you're not growing, if you're not evolving, if you're not learning, you're falling behind. But once you cross over into having a Ferrari versus, you named a little car that you want, it's no comparison, and I think the key is this was never available to us. Even when Harvey came in, I was just getting my feet wet. We were still doing this and that. But what you find is, not only do you gain confidence, you gain awareness. And you say to yourself, that group will never work here. because they have no ambition, they have no energy, they have no drive. They just hang out to hang out. And this group is, hey, speaking, doing courses, doing all the best of the best. Why not surround yourself with them and do more with less people is the key. If people are hoping the crowd gets them to where they're going to go, all they're going to do is get swept up in the crowd and be unable to be differentiated, to distinguish themselves. So, I think everybody I've talked to, and we're going to close the show right now, who's done really well, said my biggest mistake was I shot too low instead of shooting higher. I settled for less because I thought, hey, I could get less instead of going for more with people who already have more. So thank you all for being here. Harvey, always great to see you. And if you want to work with me and Harvey and Kelle and you want to learn more, go to the website, reach out, have a Zoom with us, and at least satisfy your curiosity. You can find that we're not pushy people. And, the other thing is everybody that comes in has to be a compliment to everybody who's there. So when we're talking about collaboration groups, all you need is a couple bad apples and all of a sudden the group went away. Versus, hey, I want to be in this group because this person's going to be sharing and that person's going to be sharing. And ultimately what you get here is access that you can't get any other way, the way this can work for you. So anyways, with that said, thank you all so much. Harvey, final words, and make sure you come back for Beverly tomorrow.
Absolutely. No, I think I'm going to close out by saying that quite simply, if you want to do a live stream, go to doncohencounseling.com to check out that. I'm going to promote you. Because it's what this is all about, and I couldn't do what I'm doing without having done what I've done. And if you want to do a live stream and you want to get it right, then this is it's a great way to do it. You can go out and you can do a live stream anytime you want. You go out and do it now. But if you want to make it a bit easier, with franchising, I always say you're buying time, right? It's the same thing here. If you want to buy some time, not have to go through the same mistakes and heartache and jump ahead of the queue, then the opportunity's here to do it, and with some lovely people as well. So,
well, that's so kind of you, Harvey. I know it's sincere, and it's really for the benefit of everybody because it gives us a chance to get closer than we can get the way this is. Even this brings a lot of people, but when you're actually working with somebody and you get to know somebody and they start to get to know you, what you find is they take what was there for them and they add their own personality, their own touch, which then makes it better for everybody. So anyways, I'm extremely hopeful, see so much opportunity, so much that there's no way me, Harvey, and Kelle or any other people on the screen could handle it. But collectively, how would that be if not only you're at the top of the game, but you're working with other people who are at the top of their game collectively? I think that's an unbeatable opportunity. So with that, go on, have a wonderful day. Come back tomorrow if you can, and we'll talk again.